everyone. Come on in because we are here for Ready to Love, the finale, the reunion, a part 2. Did y'all like it? Let me tell you what I didn't like about it. First of all, I was struggling with part 1, to be honest with you. I really struggled with part 1, and I hope part 2 would bring a little bit more something interesting. But once again, all we did was concentrate on the alliance, but never really talk about the alliance. Tommy did a horrible job. Does Tommy even watch the actual episodes? Because I don't understand how Tommy was able to hold everybody else accountable on this show for the things that they said, the things that they did, but not hold accountable Janelle, the biggest bully on the show. How could you try to hold Tequila accountable, Chris accountable, everyone, Marie accountable, Quentin accountable? He tried to hold all these different people accountable for things they did throughout the season that offended people or hurt people. Because let me tell you, he wasn't talking about who was right or wrong. He was just saying that the way you handled the situation was wrong. And I think that the people deserve an apology for the way you handled them. So if that's the case, if we are giving out apologies and telling people and holding people accountable, the Katarinas and everybody else accountable for the things they said to Janelle or Jessica or anyone else on this show, then I don't understand how you're not turning that around and telling Janelle she needs to also apologize to some people. This is what happens when you give the keys to the prisoners. This is what happens when the wardens, the people who are supposed to be running the show, give the keys to the prisoners. And it is really clear that this season, I'm going to put it at the lap of the producers of Ready to Love. I'm putting it at the lap of them. Because we saw signs of it very early on that Janelle, Jessica, they were running the show. They were running the show, and they got to choose who their little flunkies would be. And one of them they chose was Marie, of course. The other one is Quentin, who ain't got a spine and that big old strong back he supposedly has. They chose him as well, and they ran the show. They ran this show because let me tell you, they were not held accountable for their snarky remarks, their snarky looks. You know what? If I was a producer, I could put a whole reel together with all the eye rolling of Jessica, with all the horrible foul mouth of Janelle, but yet none of it was addressed. Everybody else is over here apologizing to people about the way they might have said something to them. But Janelle and Jessica, they don't have to dish out no apologies whatsoever for their under-breath remarks, their snide remarks. Janelle got her anger misplaced. Who she really needs to be mad at is her handler, Jessica. That's who she really needs to be mad at because Jessica's real subtle in her shit. I told y'all that before. All she does is whisper in your ear. And that's what she did to Janelle plenty of times. Whisper in her ears and let Janelle go on out there and do the dirty work. But you know how else Jessica was covered? I'm quite sure that before Jessica signed up for this show, Jessica had an additional piece of paper from her attorney that these producers had to sign. I think these producers were desperate for people to come on the show. That's what I think. I think they were desperate. And what they did was they agreed to some things for Jessica and Janelle that they shouldn't have agreed to. Because Jessica even told us this earlier in the season that she didn't have to go on no dates she didn't want to go on. She didn't have to eat in no restaurants that she didn't want to have to eat in. Because supposedly she has a gluten intolerance. Girl, you can find something gluten-free in every restaurant. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. There is something gluten-free in every restaurant. You don't have to pick the restaurants to go to a gluten-free restaurant. What does this mean, Jessica? When you go on a date with a man, you always have to pick the restaurant? Is that what you're telling me? Then I guess Chris was right. You hard to deal with. Because if anytime you go out with a person, you've got to pick the restaurant, just like you say you have to do with these producers, then you hard to deal with. I don't believe it. I think Jessica and Janelle had their hands around the necks of these producers and they let it happen. I think these producers were desperate for people to be on this show. And they signed some things and agreed to some things that in the end made the season horrible. because Jessica and Janelle had so much latitude. And then next thing you know, we come here on the reunion, and now guess who can't ask no real questions? Tommy, because Tommy's got to follow the directions of the producers. So now we're sitting over here on a reunion, really not getting to the bottom of nothing, really not holding anybody accountable, at least not the people who started a lot of this mess. We spent the whole episode 1, reunion part 1, talking about Messy Maurier, basically the whole episode 1. And now episode 2 is about who? Janelle, delusional Janelle. Delusional Janelle that believes every man wants her that's out here. Janelle, if every man wants you, then you wouldn't be on this show. If every man wants you, you wouldn't be on this show. I don't know why Janelle is popping off telling women, using lines like, you need to find you a man that wants to rub up on you. Girl, this is all falling so flat. And actually what it's sounding like, to be honest with you, it's sounding like a person pumping up themselves, because nobody in front of you is believing it. Listen, when you keep saying something that nobody in front of you believes and you still keep saying it, after a while, who are you saying it for? You're saying it for yourself. You're saying it to pump up yourself, because everybody in front of you has already told you, we don't believe it. We don't even want to hear it. We're not buying it. But yet you keep selling it over and over and over again. Why do you need everyone to believe what you believe? Then just believe it. Just believe it. Because actually she don't believe it herself. She knows she ain't no hot commodity like she say she is. She knows she ain't no hot commodity, but she out here trying to sell everybody else on it. I don't want to spend this whole video talking about Janelle. I really don't, because she got enough camera time on Reunion Part 2. She got enough camera time throughout the whole season. And she don't need no more camera time here on my video of Reunion Part 2. She really doesn't. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to give camera time to all the people who didn't get none. All the people who didn't get none, because honestly, I would be mad if I was these cast members. I would be mad. I would be like, why do you have me put on these lashes, these fancy dresses, shave my legs, get all greased up, get my edges together to sit on this reunion and not even be asked one question? Not one question. We need a viewers reunion, a people's reunion, where the people, the viewers, get to ask the questions we really want to know. Not these questions sanctioned by the producer. Not these questions from producers. Not these questions from people who are tied with the producers. Not Tommy, not none of them. Because these reunions is a waste of our time, period. And if we're going to spend our time all season watching the show, then we deserve some answers as well, even if it hurts the opinions of the people that the producers like. But where was Brandon? Where was Brandon? I barely saw Brandon. I don't even think they put the camera on Brandon. Brandon was the first person to go. Where is Brandon? I want to hear what's going on with Brandon. I want to hear, Brandon, how do you feel getting kicked off? Do you think you came on here too soon with the 4 kids? Because actually, I think Brandon was a good guy. I saw Brandon on an after interview, and Brandon seemed like a good guy. Brandon seems like the type of person where he just needs a little bit more time in the oven. He came on here too soon. But my impression of Brandon, that's what I'm going to call this video Final Impressions. My impression of Brandon was that he's a good guy. He's got a good job. He's a good guy. He seemed kind-hearted, y'all. So I'm going to tell you what, let Brandon cook in the oven a little bit longer, and Brandon is going to make a good match for somebody out there, him and his 4 kids. He's going to pair up nicely with another woman who either has kids or another woman who couldn't have had kids for whatever reason, but she's willing to step in and be a stepmom to those kids, and they can have a good life together. There is a woman for Brandon, but I would have loved to talk to him more about that and ask some questions about, do you think this experience fit well with you? What do you think you learned? How will you change the way you date going forward? I would have rather asked some questions like that than to be dealing with Jessica and Janelle and Maurier over here lying and being delusional about themselves. I will give Maurier some props, because, you know, I had my stilettos on the foot of Maurier all season. I'm going to give Maurier some props for this episode, part 2, Because what he did was he apologized to Kira because Kira was really torn up over what happened to her. And what Mario came in and said was he apologized for the way that he went about what he said or did to Kira. Now, doesn't mean that necessarily Kira's right. No, it don't mean Kira's right, because I didn't think Kira handled a lot of things correctly either. But what I did appreciate with Mario is he did take some level of accountability about the part he could have done differently. And I respect him for doing that. So that part, all y'all who told me I was so hard on Mario all season long, guess what, people? Here is my final impression of Mario. I'm going to end it on a high note and tell him I give him props for doing that. But here's going to be my final advice for Mario. Mario. Women want to know who you really are, not this person who you want everybody to think you are. I don't know, Mario, how you became this caricature that you are. But I'm telling you, Mario, anyone with a little bit of intelligence can see that you're hiding behind something. You're not being yourself. You're presenting something that's not completely real. And Mario, what I want to tell you about that is that becomes your weakness. That becomes your weakness. Because when people like Jessica of the world, who are really sharp, Jessica's really sharp. When people who are sharp and who can read people, because I think I'm one of the people who can read people, but good thing I don't use my skill for evil. But I'm telling you, Mario, you're easy to read. You actually think you're fooling people, but you're not. Many people know who you are. And if I were to meet you out on the street, Mario, I probably wouldn't call you on it. I would know who you are behind this facade. And I would just say, I don't know why he's putting on. I don't know why he's doing that. But then I would just walk away. I wouldn't read you out in the street because I got too many other things to do. And I'm not a malicious or evil person, so I wouldn't look to exploit your weakness. But there's some people who can read people very well, that when they do see your weakness and they see that you're covering something up, they know that there's weakness behind there. And what they do is they get to that weakness. And once they get to that weakness, they use it for their benefit. And that's what Jessica did to you, Mario. Your weakness is obvious, Mario. So when people don't confront you on it, it's not because they don't see it. It's because they see it, but they're actually giving you grace. They're not choosing to confront you. But be afraid of the Jessicas of the world, because Jessica saw it and she exploited it. She saw your need to be accepted. She saw your need to be part of the cool girl club, to be around pretty woman. She saw all that need. She saw your need to hang around like the Janelles and the Jessicas and to have a real shot at a girl like Jessica. She saw your overwhelming need for it, and what she did was she used it to her advantage. She used it to her advantage. And there's a lot of other people out here like the Jessicas of the world, Mario. So you better be careful. But first of all, you need to figure out why you feel the need to hide. Why do you feel the need? Because once you get in touch with that, and once you heal that spot, then people won't be able to look so far deep in you and see that weakness and exploit you from it. And then you can live a more authentic life. You can be happier. You can be who you are. I don't know, Mario. That's going to be my last and final impression to you. And stop doing people's dirty work. Stop being used to do other people's dirty work that doesn't gain you anything. Because I'm telling you, out here protecting Janelle and Jessica, it didn't get you nothing. It didn't get you anything. It actually didn't make you look good. It didn't make you look good at all, and not one bit. And you need to start making sure you pick your friends wisely, Mario. Pick your friends wisely. I would imagine, Mario, you get used a lot out here in the world. I would imagine you might get used by women. You might get used by men. Might get used by a lot of people because your weakness is obvious. You think it's not, but it's very, very obvious. Somebody else who's real obvious is Tequila. My last impression of Tequila, I'm going to say, Tequila, run to the therapist. Run. Every week, Tequila, not once a month, every week. Do you got health benefits, Tequila? Does mental health come part of your health insurance package with your job? If so, use every bit of it. Because your rage in the inside of you is too much. Your rage is overwhelming. Your rage is dangerous. And your rage is scary. It's scary. I'm concerned for you, Tequila. I'm past the point of it being entertaining, interesting, any of that, Tequila. All of that has turned to concern for you. And if I were a close member, family member of yours, a good friend, a sister, I would pull you aside and say, I don't want to talk about the incidences. I don't want to talk about what other people did. I don't want to talk about what other people said, because at this point in time, that doesn't matter anymore. What matters is your behavior. What matters is your lack of control. What matters is your inability to hold off that rage that you have. And let me tell you, I don't care what Janelle said to you, what Janelle did to you, what Sierra said, what Jessica might have said or done. None of it, not 1 ounce of it, Tequila, warrants the way you've acted on this show. Not 1 ounce. Not 1 ounce, girl. You've got to go find out what this rage is really about. Because if you don't go and find out what it's really all about, this little scenario that you have here is just going to keep repeating itself. It's going to repeat itself with other women, with other men. It's going to repeat itself on jobs. It's going to repeat itself in every aspect of your life. You've got to go find out what it is. More than likely, you need some help to do that. You need a therapist. You need a good one. And you're going to need one that's going to challenge you, because, Tequila, you're a strong woman. And you got a strong mind. And you got a stubborn mind. And you're going to need a therapist who's not going to give up on the first try. Because I imagine she's going to have to knock on your door a lot of times before you get it. You're like one of them wild stallions out in the yard who's never been ridden, who's not tamed. And you can't just get on that horse. You're going to have to work with that horse over a period of time to get on that horse. You're going to have to learn how to trust your therapist so that you can really open up and tell her what's really on the inside. Because when you first walk into that therapist's office, you ain't going to tell her the truth. No, because that scared little girl, that scared little part that's in the inside of you is not going to want to open up to that therapist. That therapist is going to have to gain your trust. And that may take months. The first couple of months of therapy with you, Tequila, may not even be talking about your problems. It may just be talking about you, period. Just getting to know you, gaining your trust, so that eventually that therapist can really peek in on the inside of what's going on. And I imagine, Tequila, it's a lot going on inside. It's a lot going on. But it's going to take some time. And you better start sooner than later. You 30-something years old. And if you want a healthy relationship before you turn 70, you turn 40, you need to get started now. And I don't care if you told me you've had therapy and this is where you are since you had therapy. Get another therapist. Get another one. If you're not making progress sooner, faster, go get another therapist. Go get another therapist. But I'm going to tell you right now, you need to stop fighting people out in the street. This is dangerous. This is absolutely dangerous, because although I think you could fight, although I think you could beat up a couple of people, I know you could beat me up. I know you could beat me up. There's somebody out there, Tequila, that can beat you up. There is. There's somebody that's going to challenge you one day that can beat you up. And it might be a man. It might be anybody. And you don't want to meet that person, Tequila. You don't want to meet them. Go get some help, Tequila. I don't like to see this going on. I don't like to see on screen. What I see actually does need some mental health counseling. I'm not saying you crazy. What I'm saying, though, is you got crazy behavior. And that crazy behavior is being fed and encouraged by something down on the inside. You got to go talk to somebody. You got to go talk to somebody. And it ain't good enough to just sit around and talk to your friends. Absolutely not. You need a trained professional who's going to help you through this. Somebody else that needs a trained therapist is Janelle. I know Janelle thinks everybody's jealous of her because she's pretty. Janelle, girl, that's not it. That's not it. I know Janelle doesn't think that she's a mean girl. I know Janelle doesn't think she's any of these things that people have accused her of. And the only reason people are acting this way towards her is because she got all the men on the show. Janelle, let's leave the show behind. Let's look at your entire life. And I guarantee you, Janelle, you've got a lot of broken relationships in your life, period. I know it. There's no way that a person like Janelle can operate the way she does and not have a lot of broken relationships with family members, with maybe business partners, people she worked with, working relationships. When you deal with people the way that Janelle deals with people, there's going to be a lot of broken relationships. She has admitted she can't even make it past 6 months in a relationship. Janelle needs a therapist. Janelle needs to be honest about where it comes from. A lot of people speculate it comes from being adopted. I probably would agree with that. I probably agree a lot of it comes from there. Comes from not being accepted. Years ago, I dated a man who was adopted. And I learned a little bit about how the womb, how the bond between a mother and their child is developed in the womb. That even though you may be adopted and you may love your birth parents, the bond that is formed with the mother and the child in the room is unbreakable. You may sever it, but it's unbreakable. It's the reason why even adopted kids may have a loving home with their adopted parents. They still yearn for and they still ache for their birth mother. This man that I dated, I remember I made the fatal mistake when he told me that he was adopted. He didn't know who his birth mother was. I made a bad mistake, and what I said to him was, because I was trying to make him feel better, but I said the wrong thing, and I didn't know it at the time. I said, most of us don't have a chance to choose our parents. And I would think they would give you a lot of comfort in knowing that, man, your adopted parents chose you, that they really wanted you. They didn't just get you because that's what came out of the mother's room. They really chose you. And what he told me, he looked at me and he said it nicely to me. He says, that's not the way I see it. The way I see it as a kid that was given up by his mother is that if my own mother didn't want me, if my own mother gave me up, then how the heck could I expect you to want me and you not to leave me? And I'm telling you, that hit me like a ton of bricks. It hit me like a ton of bricks because what he said was, my first memory of my life is being left, because that's what his mother did. His mother left him on the doorstep of an orphanage, and he was cared for by nuns. And then he said, so that was my first rejection. That was the first time I was abandoned. He said, then I formed a bond with the nuns for about 6 months. And then guess what? I was taken from the nuns and given to my adopted parents. So I don't feel like I was just left. I don't feel so lucky that my adopted parents found me. What I feel is I feel like I've been left by 2 different people already in my life. And I tell you, it made me look at things so completely different. And he educated me on a lot of things about, really, some people call it God, about what happens in the womb of a woman when she bonds with a child, that the bonding takes place in the womb. And we know that. We all know that. And what he says is that pain never goes away. So I want to tell Janelle that it's okay for you to have some unhealed pain from your adoption. But I think what you need help with is going back and understanding how deep it is, and also understanding how that might translate into your relationships here going forward. Because I do believe, like other people talked about, that Janelle has a thing for women. I do. I think Janelle especially feels some animosity towards females. She doesn't have that same energy for males. She doesn't. But she does seem to have an extra amount of oomph for some of the ladies. And I don't know if it has to go back to do with a little bit of anger she might carry for her birth mother. I don't know. I really don't know. Like I said, I'm not no therapist. I'm not trained as no therapist. I didn't go to school as no therapist. But one thing I do have is, like I told everybody, I've got good intuition. I've got good discernment. And I can discern something in Janelle. And I know enough that whatever's going on with Janelle didn't start on Ready to Love. It didn't start on Ready to Love. And I don't know her whole life. But once again, I feel like Janelle is no different than Tequila in that they are both blaming their bad behavior on people here on this show. And their bad behavior started well before they came on this show. Well before that. So my final impression of Janelle, same as I said to Tequila. Go get some help. Go get some therapy. Stop believing that the reason why you're having trouble in your relationships is all because of the other person. No, go deep. Take some ownership. Figure out what it is. Get better and improve in your own relationships. Who did I miss? Oh, I missed Red. Red, he's actually combative. Red is combative. Red likes to banter. He likes to argue back and forth. You know what? I really don't want, I'm almost running out of time. I know I've been talking for so long, but let me tell you, Red, he likes to argue a lot. Even in that little exchange with Unique, I had my words for Unique, but I kind of got the same words for Red. He should have been able to leave that alone too. Was it foul what Unique said that he got a thought job? Yeah, it was foul. But he doesn't know how to walk away. He's even got out here getting t-shirts with the name on it. Red is messy. Red is very, very messy. He likes to be messy. Even when he was sitting over there trying to poke at Quentin. Because what he realized about Quentin is Quentin ain't got no spine. When any man tries to steal your woman or right in front of your face, that means he don't respect you. And Red has no respect for Quentin. Whether or not Quentin's relationship with Janelle is real or not, that showed a lack of respect. And Red has a problem with respecting people, period. That's what I think. I think he thinks he's superior. I think he has a superiority complex. And I think he's disrespectful. So just as much as I thought Unique handled the situation wrong with Red, I think Red was also, in a lot of ways, a disrespectful with Unique as well. And I see Red also disrespecting Quentin as well. And Janelle actually should have checked Red. When Janelle is sitting there all hugged up with Quentin, but Red is over there shooting his shot at Janelle. She's so thirsty for the compliment, she doesn't even realize how that looks, not shutting a Red down when she's sitting there hugged up with Quentin. My husband would be livid. My husband would be livid if I was up underneath his arm. A man was blatantly disrespecting him, flirting with him, but every time that man complimented me, I'm over there smiling, sucking up all the compliments. Sucking up all the compliments. That just showed me how Janelle's so thirsty for compliments. Red is disrespectful and Quentin is weak. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Red needs to check himself because that's not attractive. Because one thing you know as a woman, if you can see a man outwardly disrespecting other people out here, then you know that eventually that disrespect is going to come back on you. And maybe that's what Unique knew about Red. Maybe that's the word out in the street is that he's disrespectful to women or other people. And I believe it. I believe it. Red needs to go and learn how to respect the people a little bit more. Maybe he thinks it's funny. Maybe he's one of them type of comedians that thinks disrespect is funny, but everybody doesn't find it funny. The jokes aren't funny. Another person who's unhealed, is a lot of them, is Unique. Unique, go get some help, girl. Go get some help. You were triggered this season. You were triggered by Red. He triggered you because that's not a normal reaction. Even if you heard that a man was a bad father, that's not the way you treat him. Your response was outsized to the situation. Hear me again. A lot of people want to just talk about, well, I did this because of that. I did this because of what was done wrong before me. Got it. Got it. But what I look at is just not your response, just not what the other person did wrong. I look at it and say, was your response in equal proportion to what was done? And when I know it's not in equal proportion, more than likely, I look at it as The person who has the outsized reaction is taking this opportunity to use this reason to get out other rage in them or to get out other things in them. And that's what happened with Unique. Unique was triggered by Red. I don't know exactly what triggered Unique. Maybe it was a story of him not being a good father. And I'm not saying Red isn't one, but maybe that was the story. Maybe Unique is dealing with a bad father. Maybe the story that Unique heard about Red reminded her of her relationship with her ex-husband or someone in her past. And what happened was all the things she wanted to say to that ex, and she didn't get a chance to say it, she wanted to say it, or that ex didn't allow it to be said, she decided she was going to say it to Red. She decided that in those past relationships, I didn't stand up. I didn't speak. I didn't talk. I didn't fight the way I should have fought. I didn't do the things I should have done. And now what I'm saying to myself is I'm not going to allow myself for that to happen again to me. So then a Red comes along, triggers you, and now you decide I'm going to handle Red the way I think I should have handled my ex. The problem is, Unique, is Red ain't your ex. He may have the same problem as your ex, hear me out, but he's not your ex. That's not your job. That's not your job. Your job isn't to go around and correct the Reds of the world and tell Red he's got a thought job and who he is. That's not your job. There's a lot of people out here that got problems, but it's not our jobs to continually go out and confront them. It is not our job to continually meet people in the streets, see things that might be wrong with them, but to continually confront them on their issues. No, because if you continually do that, guess what that makes you? Combative. One of the words of the season, combative. Which brings me to my next person, which is Jessica. My advice for Jessica. Jessica, you've proven to us that you are skilled at parting the thin lines, saying, I'm not combative, show me evidence, show me evidence. But Jessica, you're manipulative. You are manipulative and you need to work on this. You need to stop using your skill to read people's weaknesses, your skill of negotiation in the business world. You need to stop turning that skill onto people that you are in romantic relationships with. It's no different from a lawyer cross-examining a witness on the stand who's really good at it in his lawyer world. He can't come home and cross-examine his wife. And Jessica, you may be good at negotiation in the business world, making sure you get the best deal, making sure you get the best prices, making sure you get a contract that's in your favor. Very, very good negotiation skills. Learning to read your opponent, learning to read your opponent's weaknesses, learning to get the upper hand on your opponents in the business world. Let me tell you, Jessica, you can't bring that skill into your dating world, and that's what you do. You bring your business skills into your romantic relationships, and that's a problem. You tried it with Chris. You tried it with Chris. You tried to maneuver men. You tried to maneuver Chris when you were showing him around at that hoedown. You tried to make sure every woman voted for Chris to stay on the show. You tried to manipulate the women to make sure they voted for Chris to stay on the show. You showed him around like he was cattle. You manipulated Marie on this show so that you could make it to the end to prove to everyone that you are worthy, you're desired, and you're ready to love. You manipulated Marie. You realized that Marie wanted to be in your company. You realized that Marie wanted to be in the company of you and Janelle. You realized that Marie wants to belong. Marie wants to belong to something bigger. This is why he's part of all these groups. This is why he likes to do all these marches. Marie loves to be part of a cause. And Marie signed up to be part of you and Janelle's cause. You and Janelle had a cause on this show to make it towards the end, and you recruited the Maries, and Mario became one of your foot soldiers. You used him. These may be somewhat good tactics to use in the business world. Learning how to find the right person for the right job. It's a skill you need in hiring people. It's a skill you need to be able to read people to make sure you hire the right person for the right job. But Jessica, you're using your talent in the wrong way, girl. You're using your talent in the wrong way in your dating life, and it's working against you. Because let me tell you, Jessica, you're not the only one with this skill. And other men see the skill too, and it's not attractive. It's not attractive. And Jessica, I do believe that in that sit down dinner with you and Chris, when Chris blows up and cusses you the hell out, I believe you said something subtly to trigger him. I do. I do. Because I think you're so good at knowing how to push people's buttons, how to get people to move in a certain direction that you want to make a move. And I believe you knew just the amount of words to use to trigger Chris to go off like that. I do. I believe you're that good. I believe you are that good. And let me tell you, that is not a good characteristic to have in a relationship, because what that means is at any point in time in a relationship, like we all know how to push people's buttons, I'm afraid you keep your finger on that button with a man you're in a relationship with. I do, Jessica. I believe you will keep your finger on that button of your partner to keep him in line, and you will know just what buttons to push all the time. And I said in my last video, Chris was outmatched by Jessica. Chris is a tender-hearted man. And I'm going to get to Chris now. Chris is a tender-hearted man. I know a lot of people got on Chris when he was talking about that he needed a submissive woman because he wants to be in control. I'm going to give Chris kudos to this. Chris knows who he is. Chris knows who he is. At least Chris is telling people up front, listen, I can't deal with no Jessicas of the world. Because what he's saying is that he's tenderhearted. He can't, not only does he not want to fight with a Jessica, what he's also telling us, and what I saw with a Jessica, is he really doesn't have it on the inside of him to do it. Jessica would run all over Chris emotionally. She would tear him down to the ground. And maybe before Chris was with a woman like that. I know I said I thought it was his mama. Everybody told me I was wrong. It's not his mama. I think even Chris said he doesn't think it's his mama. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. And I'm not so sure that if it wasn't his mama to Chris, I'm not so sure if Chris didn't witness it with his mama to other people. Just as bad. It's just as bad. Chris has seen it. Chris has seen it before. Chris has seen women running over men, and what he knows on the inside of him is he can't be that man. He can't be that man that gets run over by women because he's seen it. So whether or not he wants to tell me, no, it wasn't my mother who did it to me, but that sister of his, and when they were on that Dear Wifey show, they told me that mama was one tough cookie, and if the mama didn't do it to Chris, he saw his mama do it to other people, and what he saw was, I don't want that. I don't want that. And so, Chris, my advice to you is to stop denying you haven't seen it, because you've seen it. Stop denying that you haven't been a part of it, because you've been a part of it. It's okay. It's okay for us to still love our mothers, but still see things in our mothers that we wouldn't want in a mate. It's okay. I'm a daddy's girl. I love my daddy. Every bit of my daddy I loved. But there are some things I could see in my daddy that I probably wouldn't want in a mate, in my husband. And that's okay. It doesn't lessen my love for my father. It doesn't make my father any great of a father, right? Because when we are young, we see our mothers and fathers as mommy and daddy. But as we get older, we can see our mothers and fathers as people in relationships, right? And I can see some of the things on how I wouldn't want some of the things in my father to be in my husband. But that doesn't mean my father wasn't a great father. My father loved me, but he's human. He makes mistakes, and we all have flaws. And what I see in Chris is Chris worships his mother. But I think his mother's got some flaws. I really do. And I think that maybe by him not admitting those flaws of his mother is making him date differently. Because remember, Chris doesn't want to criticize anybody. Chris doesn't want to talk bad about anybody. Chris would rather lie in your face than to admit what he really thinks about you. That's what this whole combative thing came around. First of all, I do want to clear that up. what I think about that is in that room, that deliberation room, Chris did not call Jessica combative in that moment. He did say it was a combative moment. That other clip that they showed when he has the blue suit on and he's saying Jessica's combative, that clip, as we all know, those little outtakes or whatever you want to they happen well after the actual moment. So in that moment that day, the deliberation, when they were going to let someone go, he actually didn't say she was combative. He did say there was a combative moment. Later on, what those producers did, I'm pretty sure what those producers did was they called Chris back in and say, hey, we need a little bit, whatever you call these outtakes. We need you to say it again and call Jessica combative. And Chris did it. He called her combative. And then when they went to that date where he's getting eliminated and he's still saying, I didn't call you combative. But he says, but if you really want to know the truth, yeah, I think it. See, that's what really was. Chris always thought Jessica was combative. He really did. On the inside, he really did believe it. But when he was in the deliberation room, he didn't want to say it because Chris doesn't like to talk bad about people. And so in the deliberation room, he toned it down and he said there are some combative moments. But on the inside, did Chris think Jessica was combative? Yeah, he thought it. But he didn't say it. He didn't say it because like I tell you, Chris, he doesn't want to talk bad. But in the end, the producers got him anyway. Because like I said, we know who the producers were working for this season. We know who had things on the producers. Because I'm quite sure, like I told you earlier, that there was some extra paper signed for Jessica and Janelle, who are business owners, who have a brand out here, who do not want their name and their brand sullied out here in the street. And I'm quite sure Jessica had her PR person or her attorneys draw up some extra language, some extra paragraphs for the Ready to Love producers to sign. And they knew we better not go too hard on Jessica and Janelle because we signed probably like a non-disparaging act. I don't know what it's called. Where are the attorneys out here? Y'all tell me. But I already know that everybody else was going to get picked on and Jessica and Janelle were going to get off scot-free. And that's what happened. So that's going to be my advice to Chris. That Chris, get in touch with your real emotions for your mama. Because once you realize that you can still love your mother, honor her and worship her, but you can still acknowledge that there were some parts of her that you do not want in your own wife. I think that when you're seeking your wife, you'll have a little bit of a different approach. And then what will happen is when you approach that woman, you're seeking that woman, it won't come off the way it's coming now. Because some people think you're trying to control the woman, but really, Chris, what I understand in you is you're not really trying to control the woman. You know what you're trying to control, Chris? You're trying to control the situations. That's what you're trying to control. You're trying to control situations. You're trying to control not having the type of situations you have with Jessica. And a lot of people look at that as you're trying to control the woman. But I don't think Chris wants to control women. I think he wants to control situations because he doesn't want to be in them. And that takes two different approaches. But that's going to be my advice for Chris. Marvin, I ain't got no advice for you. Do what you're doing, man. You seem like you winning out here in these streets. You seem like the type of person when you came on the show, you knew who you are. You stuck to it. You said, let me find a woman who fits who I am. It sounds like you doing it. So actually, Marvin, I don't have no advice for you. I can just say, keep doing what you're doing. Because honestly, what you do in that bedroom does not affect anybody else. Not one bit. I don't feel like you out here doing no harm to anyone. Just because you like your little kinky sex or whatever else you do, you're not harming anybody else out here in the world. It is a harmless fetish. So as long as you and your girl love it, as long as you and your girl like it, I love it. Keep doing what you're doing. Kira, my advice to you, Kira, is to get some more black friends. I know you said most of your friends are white. You know, you travel around the Dallas Cowboy. Get some more black friends so that you can have a healthier a healthier viewpoint of the black community. A healthier viewpoint of the black community. I think your viewpoint of the black community is narrow in scope. It is narrow, Kira. It is narrow. It doesn't mean that some of the things you know may not be true, but your scope of the black community is too narrow. And I think that's because you might not have had enough involvement in it. I know you got some black cousins, Kira. That's not enough to have black cousins. You need to really join some black organizations where you can be around more black people that are on the level you want to be on, your social economic level, whatever else the case may be. Because I think Kira is a bit damaged by being in the white world and seeing a black man only date white women. That's what I think. I think she's damaged from it. I think she's been around a lot of football players with the Dallas Cowboys, and she's seen all these black football players choose white women. And I think when she saw Quentin, who played football, she got triggered. She got triggered. When she said, you look like the type of guy that dates white women, it was because Quentin was the big buffed ex-football player. And from the world that Kira comes from, those men date white women. Those men date white women. Kira, in the football world, you might see a larger percent of black men date non-black women. You might see it in the football world. In that narrow world of football players, athletes, you might see a higher percentage of black men date white women or outside the black race. But Kira, in the larger world, I don't know, 80% of black men date and marry black women. You need to get in touch with the larger world. Right now, you're defining black men by the 20%. Don't concentrate on that, Kira. Don't concentrate on that. That's what the world would have a lot of black women out here do, is to concentrate on the 20% of black men that date white women, Latino women, or outside their race, and not realize that there's still a big old pie out here, 80%, that love black women and want to date black women. That's where black women need to focus. That's where they need to focus, because 80% is the bigger pie. 80% is the bigger pie. And I think right now, Kira's viewpoint is overwhelmingly slotted towards the 20%. That's her viewpoint. She needs to broaden her viewpoint. And that's going to be my suggestion for Kira. She needs to educate herself. Right now, in a lot of ways, Kira sounds ignorant because her viewpoint is based on the 20%. So she sounds ignorant. She really does. I think she's a nice girl. She just sounds ignorant. She needs to broaden her perspective. And the only one that can broaden her perspective is herself. It is actually her responsibility. It's her responsibility. And in fact, maybe a person that could help her is Marie. Since Marie says he's so entrenched in the black community, he's so entrenched in these groups of black people, maybe Marie ought to actually extend a hand. Instead of ostracizing Kira and telling Kira she doesn't belong in his world, she doesn't belong around the people he hangs around, maybe Marie ought to invite her to something. Maybe Marie ought to extend a hand and say, Kira, I want to invite you to this black event that's going to be full of black socialites, black people, upper class, black wealth, something, Marie. Marie, if you really hanging around in these groups like you say you do, instead of ostracizing the Kiras of the world, extend a helping hand. Extend an invitation. But even if the Maries of the world don't do it, Kira, it's your responsibility to do it. It is your responsibility to go out into the world and seek the education that you don't have. And right now, you sound ignorant, so you need to educate yourself. That's my advice to Kira. Leanne, I'm going to get to Leanne. Leanne, girl, you came on this show all wrong. I know you are 50 years old and you think 50 is the new 30. It's not. I'm not talking about the way you look. I'm talking about the fact that 50 is not the new 30. And I wish people would stop using these terms. Because when you walk around saying 50 is the new 30 or the 40, it makes you think you got a lot of time, and you don't. You actually don't. You don't. Leanne, If you want to live the rest of your life with a companion, whether that's just a companion or a husband, I don't know, then you need to get serious about the way you date. And you need to get away from looking for something that maybe that time is past. Right now, your focus should be not to live the rest of your life by yourself, to find you a companion that likes to do the things you want to do, who you could travel with, who you could have fun with. That man may not be able to pay all your bills, Leanne. He may not be able to, because I'm going to tell you, men at 50 years old and older, they're not looking to spend all the money they've saved in their 401ks, in their pensions, or whatever else. They're not looking to spend it on you. They're not. Listen, I'm older than you, and I'm going to tell you right now, I wouldn't be spending all my hard-earned savings on no new man, no new woman coming in my life if I were a man or a woman. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because they don't have no time for recovery. If your relationship with them goes bad, they don't have time to recover. They don't. They'll be out here in retirement with no income, and they're not going to spend it all on you. Find a man that owns a house. I'm going to give you some real practical advice. Find a man that already owns a house, who has good income to take care of himself and can take you out, and you can move into the house with him, and whatever money you've been paying on your own mortgage, whatever money you've been paying on your own rent, now you can use that money to go on some fabulous vacations. If you've been spending $3,000 or $4,000 a month on a mortgage or a rent, move in with him, marry him, I don't know, shack up, do whatever you want to do. And now guess what? $3,000 a month pays for some really nice vacations, Leanne. Leanne, you're looking for the wrong thing. You're a 50-year-old woman looking for a man the way a 20 or 30-year-old woman looks for a man. And you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. It's okay to be 50. It's okay to be 50. We do not have to keep pretending like we are 40 and 30 years old. There is enough good in being 50 that we don't have to stay in a delusional mindset that we're younger. That's a trick. That's a trick of society to make 50-year-old women think they have to be 40 to still be worth something. That's not true. It's not true. I don't have to be 40 to be worth something. I don't have to be 30 to be worth something. I'm worth something no matter what age I am. There's value in me no matter what age I am. But what I have to do is I've got to find the man that values me at my age. And 50-year-old women need to stop trying to be 40 years old so that they can become valuable to 40-year-old men or even 50-year-old men. We know 50-year-old men want 40-year-old women. So maybe at 50, you're going to have a man that's 60. Maybe you will. Or 55. What difference does it make? Be happy. Go travel. Go to Europe. Go to Paris. Fly first class. Eat in fancy restaurants. What difference does it make? We 50-something years old. Start enjoying your life, Leanne. Stop looking back. Stop trying to turn the clock back. Live in the moment where you are and start looking forward. When you're so busy trying to turn the clock back, you're looking back. You're trying to chase something that's gone. No, look forward. Look forward. Stop looking in the rearview mirror how you looked when you were 40, how you looked when you were 30. No, look at yourself in that mirror and say, damn, I look good. And keep it moving, Leanne. Keep it moving. Habibi, you got some growing up to do, Habibi. You got some growing up to do, Habibi. You also might need some therapy. And I'm going to say almost you do. You need some therapy, Habibi. You have an impulse controlling you that's not right. It doesn't go well out here in society. You need to learn how to control your tongue. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Habibi, but Habibi needs some help. Habibi needs some help navigating his life. He absolutely does. And he's going to need to go find some place to get him that life. He's going to need an outlet for all this creativity he has. I think Habibi has some parts of him that are really sharp, but Habibi doesn't know how to connect and put everything together. And it's almost like this big spark. It's like haywire. It's haywire. A lot of stuff is going on. A lot of things are going on in Habibi's head at once. And when you see him, it just looks like an electric board circuit sparking everywhere. And you're like, what the hell is going on here? And you're trying to make sense of it, but you can't make sense of it. And it's a big job for any woman in a relationship. I don't know if any woman can handle Habibi. Habibi is a handful. He's gonna have to learn how to get this under control so someone else can handle him. And Ciara, girl, I don't know what's behind all this veneer, behind the makeup, behind the wigs, behind the fashion. There's something behind there, behind the jokes. There's something behind there. I'm gonna suggest a therapy for Ciara too. And you know who I think saw it just like I saw it? Habibi. Habibi saw it. When Habibi said to Ciara, your mama ain't shit, what he was really telling Ciara was that your mama don't know everything, and everything your mama say ain't true, ain't correct. That's what he was really trying to say. He said it all wrong. He did it all wrong. But I think what Habibi picked up on with Ciara is that Ciara lives a life a lot for other people. Ciara lives her life a lot for other people. She mentioned it when she had that ex-boyfriend, that she was funny, but she would hide her funniness. Ciara hides a lot of herself to be accepted and loved by people. I thought Ciara was part of this Mean Girl crew. I didn't think she was mean, but she hung around them a lot. The more I watched Ciara, though, I don't think Ciara really believed a lot of the things that Jessica and Janelle were doing. I don't think she was fully 2 feet in, but in a lot of ways, she co-signed on it because I think Ciara wanted to be accepted. I think she uses jokes to be accepted. I think she uses makeup to be accepted. I think she uses fashion and hair to be accepted. I think she seeks the approval of her mother probably way too much for her age. Why? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know enough about her. But I think I've seen enough to know that it's worth her going and figuring that out. Because until she gets to know who she really is, right? And why she's become the person she is, she's going to have a hard time finding that person in her life. I think Ciara's journey to find the husband she wants, to have the kids what she wants, has to first start with finding out who she is. And I'm not talking about finding out what makes her happy, because that's where a lot of people start. I need to know what makes me happy first. No, Ciara, I want you to go deeper than that. I want you to first find out, why do those things make you happy? Because there's some things that make us happy for a certain reason. We need to find out the reason for it. What are we covering up? It's almost like saying, I love candy. Sure, I love candy, but why do I need candy so much? What's going on with me? Why that makes me so happy? That's where Ciara needs to go. She needs to figure out several layers deep what's going on with her. Because some of the things that we like are toxic, but they're really there making us happy because it's soothing a part of us that's unhealed. And I think that's what's going on with Ciara. I thought it earlier on, but when I saw the way Habibi, who I know all you guys don't think he does, I think Habibi saw some things in Ciara, and I think he called it out, and I think the scene was chopped up. But I'm going to ask Ciara to go get to the bottom of some of the things with her as well. Let me tell you, in the Black community, we need to use a therapy far more often than we do. Because I think it's a great tool. I think it's wonderful. And I think it helps us get unstuck in areas that are holding us back to a greater life. When we go to therapy, it shouldn't be looked at as something's wrong with us. It should be used as a tool to elevate towards the next level. So when you're trying to elevate towards the next level and you haven't been able to, that's a time to go in, get different perspectives, talk to different people, and figure out, what am I missing from my arsenal of tools that's going to propel me forward? Ciara has clearly defined where she wants to go. She wants marriage. She wants kids. She wants a family. She's got to figure out what has prevented her from doing that in the past. And that's going to start with learning about herself. Not learning what makes her happy, but learning how she became the person she is. So now she can figure out, are those some things she wants to keep about herself? Because more than likely, some of those things she's going to need to discard. She's going to need to leave behind. But that's my advice for Ciara. Katarina, girl, Katarina. Katarina says she wants a rich man. And in this episode 2 of the reunion, what Katarina said was, I'm going to have to learn where to go and start hanging out to meet rich man. That's what she said. If you notice what Katarina said, was she said she doesn't want to change what she wants, which is fine. She wants a rich man. She wants a man to pay all her bills. But what she's also saying is, it's not what she wants that's the problem. It's where she's been dating. And what she's decided is she wants to start hanging around in circles where the target list is rich. The target list is rich, where doesn't matter what man she chooses, he's going to be a rich man. Hanging out in rich country clubs where it doesn't matter which man she latches on to, he's going to be a rich man. At least she's got her game plan together. So my advice to Katarina is she needs to be open to dating outside of her race. That's going to be my advice to Katarina. Not because there aren't some rich black men, but because if your number one focus is to marry a rich man, then you need to make sure you broaden the pool of people. I believe that rich men exist in the black community. I'm not one of those people. But they also exist in the Latino community, the white community, the Asian community, the Indian community. And if your goal is to date a rich man, you're much better off broadening your pool of men. So Katarina, my advice to you, since you are stuck on dating a rich man, you need to look at dating outside your race so that you can broaden your pool of men. And you'd better do it fast, Katarina, because let me tell you something. These rich men, no matter if they're white, black, Asian, whatever, they're going to want younger women. And if they haven't had children, they're going to want women who are wanting to bear them some children. So you might have to come up off that, I don't want no kids, unless you're willing to date an older man who's already had his children. But your best bet, Katarina, is to stop telling men you don't want to have kids and say, more so, that if you meet your rich man and he hasn't had children, that you will have some with him. If you want to be the type of woman where you meet a rich man, you may have to bear a child, Katarina. You can't have something for nothing. You got to know what you're willing to give, Katarina. You just can't go out here in the world and take and take and take from rich man or poor man. And you just can't offer good looks, Katarina. You just can't offer good looks. You're a smart girl. You're going to figure it out. But men who are rich, they want a legacy. Rich men, more than any other man, wants a legacy. They want kids to carry on their business, to carry on their family name. They want kids. So when you say you want to date rich men, you better figure out and learn what rich men want. And the majority of rich men want children. So you walking around talking about you don't want kids, but you want rich men, don't even go together, Katarina. Don't even go together. They don't go together. So you might need to change your speech, Katarina. Change your speech. Since we're moving into the soft life women, the Lees, Katarinas, and Aries of the world, I might as well go ahead and give my advice to Aries. Aries, too late, Aries. Aries, I know the life you want. I know the life that you want, Aries. And I don't want to say it's too late. Let me not go so far. But Aries, Aries is kind of like people when they say they want to be rich, but they don't want to be famous. You ever hear that saying? They want the money of a rich person, but they don't want to be treated in the world as famous, because with fame, they're not able to do and move in the world the way they want to. And I look at Aries and I understand the type of man that Aries now wants because I feel like she didn't have that guy early on. But the problem with that, Aries, is that people already see you as this strong, capable woman, and it oozes out of you. It really does ooze out of you. It oozes out of you. Doesn't mean that you don't deserve a man that takes care of you. No, it doesn't mean that. And I think what Aries has to do is she's got to recalibrate her expectations. I don't think Aries needs to be with a man that she's got to take care of her, the feel of the world, where she's got to be the rock for feel. I don't think so. I don't think Aries needs that. But I also think that Aries might be shooting for someone more similar to her father, whereby he was a sole provider, and with her mother. But Aries isn't her mother. Aries wants a man like her father or even her stepfather, but what she's failing to recognize is that she's not her mother. She's not going to attract the same type of man. You see what I'm saying? The type of fish that Aries' mother's caught was based on the type of bait her mother was. Aries is not the same bait as her mother, but she's still trying to catch the same type of fish. Aries can catch a fish. Aries absolutely can catch a fish. She's got a lot of good things going for her. But I think right now, she's trying to catch the wrong type of fish. And not only that, she's trying to catch the wrong type of fish that actually wouldn't even fit in her life. Because Aries wants a man like her father, but she's probably not willing to take the direction, take the lead that her mother did. That's the other problem. Not only does she not have the right bait, she's not even willing to be in that marriage when her mother was probably to her stepfather. Aries is a career woman. She makes good decisions. She makes a lot of decisions. She's told us she's had multiple businesses. And so I don't know why Aries thinks she can have all that and then have a man who takes care of everything, but then she doesn't have to take any direction from that man. And she might say, well, I am willing to take direction. Not enough. Let me be clear. I'm quite clear Aries wants to take some direction, but let me make it clear. She doesn't want to take enough of it. Not for the man she says she wants. Not enough of it. So she's going to need a different type of man. She doesn't need the feels of the world. Absolutely not. But the guy she's looking for who takes care of everything, no. They're not looking for her. And actually, she wouldn't be happy with him because the things he would want, Aries wouldn't want to give it to him. Aries is another person. She needs to recalibrate the type of man she's looking for. I said this in my videos. Stop just looking for the man you want. Give some thought to could you make that man happy? The man who's the sole provider, taking care of everything. Aries, the woman who doesn't want to cook, the woman who wants to have multiple businesses, the woman who more than likely is stretched thin out here in the world because she's got multiple things going on. She's got cooks coming in. Why would a man who makes a lot of money, who's busy himself, also want a woman who's so busy that doesn't have time for him? It's not going to fit, Aries. It's not going to fit. So even if you think he's the man you want, eventually he would feel you're not the woman he wants. Think about it both ways. Don't get in any other marriage, Aries, where just because it's the man you want, you may not be the woman he really needs, and vice versa. That's my advice for Aries. And to move on to the next soft life woman, we're going to move on to Lee. Lee got a big old fan club out here, so I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for this. But I'm going to stick to what I said all season long with Lee. Lee, you need to look in the mirror a little bit deeper. And I don't mean looking at just the image, because you are a beautiful package. You are a good looking package. But Lee, I'm telling you right now, where you're missing the mark is with a little bit of critical thinking. You're lacking just a little bit of critical thinking, and your go-to reason for why men don't want you is another reason. It's always another reason. It's never anything that you need to be or do differently. This is why you lean towards coaching, because your first thought is the reason why the man wasn't interested in me was because X, Y, and Z. It's never because you may not be the type of woman he wants. And I don't know if the reason why you don't do that sort of critical thinking or introspection is because it makes you feel bad, that maybe you think you're not, it makes you feel like you're not less than, but you tell us all you have great self-confidence. So I don't understand what's wrong with saying the reason why Quentin didn't like you is because he just was more interested in Janelle. It wasn't because Janelle had a tight grip on Quentin. Yeah, Janelle did have a grip on Quentin, but that's not the reason why Quentin didn't like you. Same thing when you were sitting in front of Christopher. The reason why Christopher didn't call you is because he was intimidated by Quentin. No. The reason why Chris didn't pursue you heavier is because Chris was distracted by, I don't know, other women. No. I think my advice to Lee is to go back to some exes. I think the only person Lee is really going to get her answers from are going to be exes. People who really know her, because Lee has such a great package on the outside and she's really good at presenting an image. Most people will come upon Lee and say, I really don't see no problem with you, Lee. I don't understand. It must be the men. It must be the men because you are a great woman. You've got beauty, you've got brains, you're successful. See, that's what happens when you get into your own hype and you got a whole hype crowd out here. When everybody's hyping you up and telling you what's so great about you. Because you're not having anybody saying and telling you you are all those things, but there's some real fundamental parts of you that a lot of men are not finding attractive. And if you really want to grow, you got to be able to have those tough conversations, Lee. I don't know you intimately, Lee, but I'm going to tell you this right now. I do know that you don't see your flaws. You don't. You don't see your flaws. You don't see what other people see that doesn't make you attractive to them. And I don't know who you got to go to talk to. I don't know if it's going to be an ex. I don't know if it's going to be a girlfriend that you might have that's a straight shooter that'll really tell you, who will tell you in a loving type of way. I try to come up with some things on this show. People attack me. So I can imagine how your crowd must be. But I didn't find Lee's conversation all that interesting. I really didn't. I really didn't find it interesting. I don't know what Lee has to do, but it's going to start with her surveying. I know she's a businesswoman. She needs to survey some past clients. She needs to find out from these men, what is it about me that you find a bit of a turnoff? We all got things that turn off men. It's not a big deal. It really isn't a big deal. She said she was in a relationship with a gentleman for 7 years. I would think Lee would have wanted to get married. I think she probably did. Why didn't that materialize to marriage? Why didn't that man get down on one knee and propose to Lee and ask her to marry him in those 7 years? Why? What was his hesitancy? He may not have been the best man in the world, sure, but he still didn't propose, because even bad people propose. Here's the point I'm making. Even bad people propose. Even if he wouldn't have made the best husband for her, she was with him for 7 years. Did she turn down proposals? Did he propose to her every 6 months and she just kept saying no? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe that man proposed to her over and over again and she just kept saying no for 7 years. I think it's the other way. I don't think that she could get him to propose, and she needs to find out why. What was the hesitancy? Lee is so entrenched on being a coach, teaching everybody how to be better people. She needs someone in her life to help teach her. She needs her own coach. Just like therapists need therapists. We all need different types of friends. We need people that we encourage, and we also need people who encourage us. We need people that we may try to get them to go to a higher level, but then we also have people in our lives who speak to us to try to take us to a higher level. Who is that person in Lee's corner who is telling her that in her dating life, she's doing some things wrong and she needs to do some things differently with men? And just from this little bit of show that I've seen, Lee needs somebody like that in her life. She needs somebody like that who's going to make her grow. And I'm not for sure it's that friend that she brought on the TV show. What was her name? It was some weird name. I forgot. It's not going to be her. Lee needs somebody else. That's my advice for Lee. And to go back, who did I miss? How in the heck could I miss the wannabe comedian, Mr. Phil? Phil. How could I even think about ending this video recap and not talk about Phil, another person who doesn't see himself? Another person who doesn't see himself, and all he does is he goes out in the world and says, I don't quite understand why people don't see me the way I see myself. Listen, Phil, it comes a point in time where it doesn't matter the way you see yourself. You could see yourself stable all day long. You could see yourself as a man that changes jobs every 2 years, every 3 years, stable. You could see yourself as a man that just because he's come on a show like this, all of a sudden the comedian is awakened inside of him, and now he wants to tour the world and become a comedian. And then when a woman tells him, that's fine, that's what you want to do, it's just not what I want for my life, you all dumbfounded and you can't understand it. That's another person who looks at people out in the world and says, I want you, but gives no consideration to whether or not that person would want them. No consideration. Phil gives no consideration to what type of woman would want to be with him. Maybe when he sits back and asks himself, what type of woman would want the life that I'm offering, he'll find that woman. Because there is a woman that wants the life that Phil is offering. There is a woman. There's a woman that wants the life that Phil is offering. The problem he ran into was he was trying to sell it to a woman who didn't want it. 101 of salesmanship is you have to sell the product to a person who wants it. If the person doesn't want the product, it doesn't matter the price of the product, they'll never buy it. If I don't want something, I don't care how cheap it is. I ain't buying it. I don't want it. I don't even want it for free. You know how many times people try to say, here, take this, it's free. No, I don't want it. I don't even want it for free. I don't even want it cluttering up my life, my house, my whatever thing they're trying to give me for free. If I don't want the item, it being free means nothing to me. In fact, it's more work in my life. And what Phil was doing to quit, and what Phil was doing to Aries all episode long was trying to give her something for free. Saying, listen, I want to give myself to you so much, Aries. I'm going to give you me for free. And Aries says, no, thank you. I don't want it. And what Phil was saying was, I don't understand why you don't want me for free. I have value. I'm not poor. I'm not broke. I do have value. Why don't you want me? Because that's not the point, Phil. The point isn't that you have value. Yes, you do have value, but you don't have value to Aries. And once again, here's another person evaluating their value based on their own perception of themselves and not what is their value to that other person. What is their value to that other person? And what Phil doesn't do is Phil doesn't see his shortcomings. He doesn't see what things are unattractive about himself. He needs to take a deeper dive. He needs to take a deeper dive. And like I said, a lot of people out there, he needs a mirror in front of him. He needs a mirror. He needs somebody to come along and stop telling him, man, I know you got a good job. Man, I know you got this. I know you got that. Nah. He needs a friend that's going to come along and say, yeah, man, you do have all those things. But I could also understand how some women could be turned off by these other aspects of your life, these fluctuations in your life. Women want stability. They don't want every 2 years you come on a show like this and now you want a whole nother career. Dang, what's that going to do to our life? All this instability. Think about somebody else other than yourself, Phil. Think about somebody else other than yourself. And when it comes to thinking about somebody else, I'm going to go to Sloth Herbert, because he's another person who's going to struggle in this area. I'm okay with you, Herbert, being slow and a sloth, taking a long time to warm up, wanting to date women 3 and 4 years before you might be ready for marriage. That's fine. Then you need to date women who got a whole lot of time. Stop dating women who are in their early 30s, who are ready to close deals and get married and have kids. Stop wasting their time. Stop leading them on. Stop making them think that there could be a possibility. When you start dating women, Herbert, you need to tell them the truth. You need to tell them that I'm slow and that more than likely I'm not going to come to no decision on marriage until about 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. Be truthful with them, Herbert. Don't go in with these women saying, "Oh yeah, I could get married," knowing who you are and knowing that you don't pull the trigger that fast and waste these women's time. Don't do it. It's nothing wrong with you being slow, Herbert. It's nothing wrong with you taking a long time to make decisions. But be truthful to these women. Be truthful to them. Don't waste their time. It's unfair to them, Herbert. It's unfair. You don't have to feel hurried. You don't have to feel rushed. You don't have to feel any of those things. But don't lie to the women. Don't lie to the women. Because when you lie to them, then guess what? I call you a time waster. I call you a time waster. But if you're honest with them, then it's not a time waster. You told them the truth. Stop dating these young 30-year-old women and be honest with yourself. I know you don't think you're a time waster. I know you don't think you're one, but you are. I know you don't think you're a time waster, but you are. I know you probably think it's not my intention to waste women's time, but it's the result. I'm not talking about what your intentions are. I'm talking about the result. Your intentions may not be to waste someone's time, but when you enter in relationships and you're slow to make decisions and you need a lot of time, then that's the result. It may not be the intentions, but it's the result. Did I miss anybody? Oh my goodness, I think I missed Quentin. Quentin, my advice to you, stop lying to Janelle. Stop lying to Janelle. You're not ready to have no kids in 3 months. Absolutely not. Quentin knows darn well that he's not ready to bring no babies into this world that he's got to provide for financially. He knows darn well. Janelle was easy, low-hanging fruit. She was easy. She was easy. I'm not saying that they may not have any chemistry. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is their lives don't fit. Not at this place. They don't. Maybe when Quentin gets older and Quentin is older, he's a little further along in his career and his life, maybe he and Janelle would go well together. But guess what? By then, Janelle's either going to not have kids, not be able to have kids, or whatever else. And sometimes it's just a matter of timing. Sometimes the timing just don't work. And with Janelle and Quentin, the timing just don't work. If it were another timing, to be honest with you, I actually could see them together. Because Quentin don't mind being bossed around. Quentin does not mind being bossed around by Janelle. Quentin's spine is a little bit weak, and he wouldn't mind being bossed around by Janelle. He might not mind. He wouldn't mind living off a little bit of the Janelle money either. Either one, he wouldn't mind. Quentin would be really comfortable being the lower income earner in a family, cooking more at home, doing more of the domestic duties, working out when he wanted to. Quentin would not have a problem with it, and he showed us that multiple times. But Quentin is still not ready to have children right now. He knows it, and now he's wasting Janelle's time. So unless, Quentin, you ready to let that sperm run wild, okay, and meet up with that egg, then stop wasting Janelle's time, because she ain't got much left if she wants to birth a child. She ain't got much left. She's 42. Her clock is running out. And every day that you waste with her, you're holding her back from getting what she wants. And that's not right. Stop wasting her time just because you got a lot of time left. Quinn, go find you another woman, probably an older woman. Quinn definitely going to have to be with an older woman. Quinn's going to have to be with an older woman because he's going to need an older woman to lead him a little bit more. So Quentin, with you 32, 33, get her about 35, Quentin, about 35. She still got some runway to have some kids. She still may feel like she can give you another 2 years before you're ready to have children, all that. But Janelle's just too far at the end of the spectrum. She's 42. You can find someone like Janelle who's around 35 and also without all the drama of Janelle, because I also think that's going to be a problem for Quentin. Quentin don't want to be playing referee for the rest of Janelle's life. Quentin don't want to have to be getting in the middle of Janelle and people she fighting for the rest of her life. First of all, because Quentin ain't no fighter. As big as he is, he ain't no fighter. Every time Janelle got into a fight with Tequila, when they was ready to throw up some hands, Quentin was nowhere to be found. Quentin ain't trying to fight. All them muscles can't fight and can't swim. Good Lord. Quentin, leave Janelle alone. Leave Janelle alone. Go find you someone else who's got time to sit around and wait for you to get your business going. Another strong-minded woman, more than likely. A very strong, assertive woman who can lead you through life. Because that's what you need. Quentin needs a woman that's going to lead him through life. And it's going to be a strong, a dominant force in his life for whatever reason. We never really learned much about Quentin. We really didn't, because Janelle overshadowed him so much. I don't even know who Quentin is. I really don't. But I know Quentin was more than happy being the puppy dog of Janelle, even though Quentin knew he was never going to give Janelle a baby. He knew it. He said he's competitive. I know he is. He's competitive from his football days. And he knew that he was never going to give Janelle this baby she wanted in 6 months or a year. But he wanted to make it towards the end and be deemed the winner. So guess what, Quentin? You won. You won. I don't know what you won. But if you want to be called a winner, you a winner. You made it towards the end. But now stop wasting Janelle's time, because Janelle really did fall for you, Quentin. She really did fall for you. And you knew that you couldn't give Janelle what she wanted, and you still let it happen just so you could be a winner. You look horrible, Quentin. You look horrible. But that's it. I don't know who I missed out. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. But this was my final impression from everybody. This was my final advice, my final rant, my final whatever. And I guess I will see y'all next season. But if y'all gonna transition over with me to Married at First Sight, I hope y'all do. I'll see you when that starts up. And I still have a couple of videos to do on my Love is Blind. But that's it, y'all. Talk to you later. Bye.